Before we begin, just a quick disclaimer. You might encounter strong language. Oops. We also want to be clear that the things we say are our opinions and in should no way be taken as medical health or dietary advice. We also are aware that we have certain privileged experiences and therefore we are not able to be representative. And we don't even aim to be representative of all the things that people have lived and felt that we have not.
I'm fat and I have my own style. So,
I'm fat and I'm still trying to make peace with the way my tummy looks in shorts. So,
tummy and thighs both. I'm fat and I'm lazy. So,
I'm fat and I've discovered Halton X look amazing on me. Yum, yum. So,
yeah, I'm like that with strapless.
ooh.
But that probably has more to do with the fact that I hate bras. I'm fat and I like wearing my skin. So,
I'm fat and I like to wear clothes I feel sexy in. So,
welcome to Fatso, the podcast where we talk about the joys and sorrows of being fat women in India. Heavy on the joy. I'm Ameya.
and I'm Pallavi, and this is season 3, where we've invited other people to talk to us about their experiences of being fat. Today, we're speaking to Juanita, who we discovered in our eternal hunt for clothes that look good and fit.
Indeed. In some ways, I feel like she only discovered me, as in, like, I was very, like, out of touch with this stuff. So I found her when she appeared on our Fatso Instagram. But Jo, as she likes to be called, she runs her own clothing brand called Plumpf, which started in 2018. And we have had the good fortune of wearing some of her awesome clothes. She's a marketer by profession, so theoretically marketing, but marketing though she does great marketing, no? She loves adventures and she's trying to do what she can for fat liberation. But most importantly, she's also a cat mom. So basically, she's like my best friend forever. Welcome, Jo.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. I'm super excited about this.
Excitement all around. Okay,
Yes.
so let's dive right in. Shall we, Pallavi?
Yep, let's do that. So, we're really dying to hear more about Plum. But before that, though, we would like to ask you what's your experience of being fat? And have you experienced fat phobia? We'd love to talk to you about it.
Yeah. So I'm going to start with that sentence that we all say that we've always been fat, right? So I'm one of those people. I've always been fat all the way from childhood. And fat phobia, yes. Oh my God, I think I could write a book on that. Uh, so from family to neighbors and everybody around, friends, colleagues, I think everybody has been fat phobic in some or the other way. I mean, of course, not everyone, but largely most of the people, right? And in their own way, as I would say. Like, I think at home, especially, what I constantly keep hearing is, "You're doing a great job. You could have been better if you lost weight," and it
God,
just didn't make sense.
Like, when are they going to stop with that line?
really.
Yeah, because you know what I always find funny is I do not know how my weight will help me get better marks or how my weight would help me, like, finish a workshop. Because there were so many times in life when I was told that, oh my God, it's so nice that, you finished your graduation, you finished your master's, you got a job. But if you lost weight, and I'm like, really now? I just didn't get it because for me, I'm just a body, right? Whether I'm thin, whether I'm fat, whether I'm tall, short, fair, dark, didn't seem to affect the way I performed in any other aspect. So I didn't really understand why people kept saying it. And I later realized that, okay, they don't get it. And maybe they assume that being fat made a difference in who I was. And it does to an extent, but not all the way, right? So yes, so I would say there would be so many people that I could put in that category. Sometimes knowingly, a lot of times unknowingly, like a lot of people have told me that if you lose a little bit weight, you would look more beautiful. I don't get that. I know I'm beautiful,
I
right?
swear.
Yeah.
I swear, like, if I had like fuck a dollar, if I had 1 rupee for every time someone has told me that if you lost a little weight, I'd be so pretty. If you lost a little weight, now all the boys would line up. Bhai, I would not have to work. I could just make this podcast my full time life.
I always had this thing to people who told me that if I got skinny and I got all the guys, what would all the other girls do?
Good one.
Excellent line. I'm stealing it.
Because I always told like everybody, family, friends, everyone, that I think I'm awesome just the way I am. My personality, the amount of effort I put into things, the dedication. Like if I could, I would date myself. I know that, right? And imagine I was, let's say, according to beauty standards, a 10. Like, oh my God, nobody else would get a chance with the men then.
Yeah, I completely hear what you said. And I mean, I think I've used that once in a while, but
Mhm.
yay, more power to you.
Thank you. So, it's been a bit of a struggle. I think mostly because it affects your insecurities a lot. It keeps coming back, and you ask yourself, am I not good enough? Or is this the only one thing, that matters to everyone? It is probably one of the first things they see about you, but it cannot be the only thing, they see about you.
Yeah, but that's what
And
people.
apart from that, obviously, the finding clothes, fitting into things that are around you, like chairs or
Mm,
like, oh my God, sometimes some of the staircases are so tiny. And if
mm.
there's someone coming the other way, I'm like, should I walk? Should I not walk? And it's just ridiculous because I shouldn't have to worry about these things at all.
Yeah. The pool here near my parents live, there's a really nice pool. And
Hmm.
there are a lot of elderly people here. So my mother insisted that they should have not just a ladder, but a staircase to come out of the pool. And it's
Hmm.
quite sturdy. And also, for me, that's reassuring. But I shit you
Hmm.
not, it is literally, if I turn sideways and climb those stairs sideways, I've got
Hmm.
both the rails like scraping me on both sides.
Oh
It's that
man,
narrow. And I'm like, some auntie who's got a little bit of a swell on her butt is going to get stuck or twist her ankle someday.
for sure, for sure. I'm sure you guys have gone through this experience where, in India, we have this thing where, people park their bikes beside each other and then you have to like squeeze into that and go to the other side, like to the road or to the, pavement. Oh my God, I don't get that. Like, I see my friends just squeeze in, and I'm like, wait, I'm going to find a place where there's a little bit of space so I can actually walk through.
Yeah,
Only 1,000 times. Also,
all the time.
when I
Yes,
park my car and somebody parks next to me and they leave like 7 inches, I shit you not, I key their car.
you must, you must.
You do?
Yeah. I'm like, if you are going to be so fucking insensitive, guess what? Your car got scraped. If you don't have the
No, but
sense to leave 1.5 feet between two cars when you park, so people can open their doors, then my friend, your car gets scratched. Or like these bhaiyas will park the car, and I'm like, bhaiya, aap hi nikalo. Because you will ghuso from the window and go and all. I can't do all that shit.
Yeah,
no, I
seriously.
completely understand. And you know what I feel is another problem is people who are not fat don't get it. Like, they don't understand that we can't squeeze into tiny spaces, or we can't, like, oh my God, I don't know why this keeps happening. So, when there's a construction, they'll just lay a plank and you're expected to walk on it.
Oh
Oh
And
God,
God.
yeah.
I'm just like, this is not going to take my weight. And then my friends are like, no, no, it will. And I'm like,
Oh
what if it
God.
doesn't? I don't want to be down a hole, like struggling to come up, because that's not easy either.
I swear. And I'm
Mm.
like, Tere ko kya pata? What do you mean? Of course it'll be fine. I'm like, you weigh some 5 kilos. You can talk about yourself. You don't know what I weigh. Or like I'll say I won't fit in this chair. They're like, of course you will. I'm like, listen, who lives with my body? Who
Mm.
understands my dimensions? Who
You
you
know,
or who?
I have this really weird thing that I want to do once. Like, once I want to experience. I want to be skinny for one day, just to know what it's like. I don't
Oh,
know if it's a good thing or not, but it's just something like, I'm like, okay, this is what it is like. Because I know
Agreed.
what it's like, how easy is it to get into an auto, get out of an auto, or like squeeze into places, or sometimes just jump and sit on things.
Oh God, I swear. I
I was
landed.
thinking, okay, maybe one day I'll try and see if it is actually very different.
Yes, I want to do one day as a skinny person and one day as a man.
Oh my God, me too.
Okay, I don't want being a man, but when you're saying this, the one thing I would like to experience is someone being able to pick me up, because I think my
Oh
parents
God,
started
yes.
off when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old already. But you're too fat for us to pick you up, and I'm like, what the hell? So maybe that's what I want to be skinny for.
This is the
To
other thing.
experience that.
I've dated these boys who are like, I'm like super strong, bro. I'll pick you up. I'm like, listen, last thing I want to do is drive you to the hospital. Can you just not? Then they'll say,
Yeah,
no, I'll pick you up. And then they're like, and they'll be shaking.
yeah.
Dude, guys, there was this one guy, this one Brazilian guy that I hooked up with who felt that he thought he was in a porno or something.
Oh.
And he's all like, I want to pick you up. And I'm like, no. And then he decides to try and, pick me up in the middle of sex. And I'm like, at which point, of course, I have lost my boner completely because I'm terrified that I'm going to fall over or if he's going to fall over and it's 1 o'clock in the morning. And who needs this drama? And can we please just move on with life? So yeah, that was
I do not understand this need to lift us.
no,
There
I
is no
understand.
requirement.
I feel like I want to be lifted. P, I completely get you. You know those scenes where they come running and you jump and someone grabs you?
Mm-mm.
Like, I have done this with my nieces when they were chotu, but like, I want to be that.
I'm sorry, where are all these men? Nobody has ever offered to try to lift me. Of course, I would have same reaction that please, dude, like seriously, don't even try.
Well, I mean,
But
Just to
where
let you
are?
know, it's not comfortable at
I was
all.
very young. I mean, sorry, I wasn't, well,
Huh.
okay, I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and they were very young.
Huh.
So, like,
Mm.
all these super enthu 25-year-olds, please don't try with 25-year-olds.
Yeah, of course. Um,
I'm sure it's not a comfortable experience in this body, which is why I want to be skinny and see how it is to be picked up.
Correct.
Anyway, I
yeah, of
interrupted
course.
you, Joe. Go ahead.
Right. So, I think, yeah, so with the insecurities and everything else that came its way, uh, but I think one of my biggest issue that I had, uh, I wouldn't say with being fat because I'm completely okay with that. With the perception of what people thought was that everybody found me cute, everybody found me bubbly, funny, and I kept getting this, oh, you're not like the other girls, you're so nice, and all of that. But I never got a beautiful. I never got a sexy. I never got, oh my God, you're in, like, you're at the top of your game. I never got that ever.
Hmm.
And I was. Like, if I had to look at everything else that I was doing, I was on top of my game. I was like doing great in college. I was doing great in my job. I had everything that most of the people wanted. But
Hmm.
it was never acknowledged. I was always like, oh my God, you're so cute. Oh my God, like, you're like a doll or you're like a panda. And I didn't get it. Because this was everything that my friends would say, and then I had another side which would be like in the bedroom, and then there was a whole different description. But I don't think I was ever like anyone ever came and told me, oh my God, you look so sexy or you look so beautiful. And I wanted to be, right? Like, who doesn't?
Yeah.
And took a couple of years for me to figure out why was it that way. Sometimes maybe it was the way I was dressing. Sometimes it was the way I was behaving. So we all have our defense mechanism, and my strongest one is to be funny or to be mean. So I'm usually mean to people before they can be mean to me. Like if I walk into a room, I make sure that I have everyone's attention and I have established my dominance, so nobody's going to come with me with any comment or anything to say because they'll be like, oh my God, she's the most confident person in this room.
You and I both.
And I feel that's more of a defense mechanism because
Hugely.
if I had to actually tell my closest of friends, to describe me, I don't think they would ever say that she's someone who is, not that I'm not confident, but they'd be like, oh my God, she's someone who's very reserved. She doesn't like to talk too much, all of that. But when I go into a room of people, because I know the things that are going to be thought of, the things that are going to be said, I will make sure that in the first 5 minutes, I make sure all of them are hushed. Right? So it was always like that. And I didn't enjoy it. I mean, I love the attention, who doesn't? But it wasn't always the right kind, and it was so much effort. And I always got this thing where, they would be like, oh, when you came in, I thought you were like this, but now I see you're so smart, you're so this, you're so that. And I just usually, and I still do this because it's so much fun, I just go and be like, is it because I'm fat? And everyone else gets so awkward. There's just silence. And they'll be like, I know I'm fat. Like, it's not like I discovered it this morning or something. I know I'm fat. And I do not see why that makes you uncomfortable. And
Joe, you are a woman after my own heart, because this is exactly all the shit I pull. And it's exactly comes from that same place. The jokes I make about myself are more about, it's not because I'm quote unquote cool about them or that, it's because I don't want you to hurt me. And if I say it first, I'm in control.
yes.
I am in charge of the conversation. You are not mocking me. You are joining my joke. You are following me. So I am the dominant one. And it took
Exactly.
so many years to unpick that in my head, And the thing you were saying about in the bedroom also, like I have always been confident in a fake it till you make it kind of way, right? For me, that's the way bedroom situations always work. But what I find really, what I found really shocking is only as little as 4 years ago or 5 years ago, that I have this particular partner that I see on and off, and I've been seeing on for years. And he would just go on and on with the "you're beautiful" and the way he would touch me non-sexually. He would randomly say things like this to me, and slowly I started to actually believe him. At first I'd just be like, yeah, he's being sweet because of course, and Array, he's a nice guy, he's saying nice things to me. But I legitimately, it took a lot of time, but after hearing it and seeing it, because after a point you can see it in someone's face,
Yeah.
their emotion. It really made such a difference that finally I started to believe it. But it took so many years. And I am somebody who, I'll put my hands up and says, comes from a super confident, supported background. I was always very confident in myself, in my intelligence, that I had stuff to give, that my family loved me, that I was smart, that I could do stuff. Even with all of that, it took so long. I can't imagine so many people don't have my luck to have the kind of family support I've
For
had,
sure.
for
For
example, right? So yeah, that's the thing that really hits me.
Yeah, and I think what really hit me, because it's something that I'm dealing with this week. Again, you know how these things you feel you've worked on and you've resolved, and then they'll suddenly come up again, and you're like, hey,
Yeah, man.
dude, like, why were you hiding, first of all? And, now that I'm having to deal with you again, is the fact that, doing this, I mean, we do it to protect ourselves and we don't have a choice because the world is just so cruel, but it is so exhausting. It is so utterly draining of all resources to have to put that face up, to put that front up. And we do it because we have value. We know our own value. But it's so difficult to, it's like you're constantly helping other people understand it. It's exhausting. So for me, I mean, I hear what you guys are saying, and the fact that you use the word, it's fun for you, but I don't know, I feel that it's now just too exhausting to deal.
I fully agree with you, P, because even Joe was saying that, right? It's a lot of
Yeah.
energy and effort to do stuff. And for me as well, I've stopped doing a lot of this now because I cannot be bothered to perform, and show off. Okay, but we could go on and on about this, I think, for at least 3 hours, if not 3 days. So I'm going to quickly push us forward and say, Joe, the part we're super excited to hear all about. Tell us about Plumpf. Tell us about how you started it, why you started it, what are the things you've discovered about yourself, about other people, about fatness and ideas of fatness and style and fashion. Anything you want to tell us about Plumpf?
Sure. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory because it was more of an accident, but a very pleasant one, of course. So I'm sure y'all all have faced this issue where you cannot get the clothes you like, right? And because I was in a corporate job, there was a
Yeah.
certain kind of decorum I needed to follow. And in India, the formal wear always comes in three-fourth armed or full armed. And I get it that you might need to wear that when you're in a meeting, but that is so bloody hot. You're always sweating and it's so uncomfortable.
Oh my
And
God.
all my life, I have seen my mother and everybody around me wear sleeveless. And it never struck me that I never had anything sleeveless. So one day I was just sitting beside my mom and I was like, ranting about something. And I was just went like, I want to wear something sleeveless. Why isn't there anything in the market that is sleeveless? And my mom's like, have you heard of a tailor? Like, why don't you just get it made? Until then, it never occurred to me that I could stitch my clothes. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can. So I went to the tailor. And it was a lot of experimenting of understanding what I like, what is it that he can make. But I got a really good tailor. And I started making tops and then slowly, moved into making dresses. And so that way I got clothes that I like. And when I started wearing them, people around were like, oh my God, this is so nice. Where do you get it from? And I'd be like, I made this myself. And then slowly, like with time, maybe a few years later, I started giving advice to people around me saying, you can pair this with this, you can wear maybe a skirt with this or something of that sort. And it kind of started getting accepted. People around me liked the advice I was giving. And I was constantly told that, you should start a brand or you should make your own clothing. You're really good at it. And I had an eye for like if I go shopping with my friends, I'd pick up clothes that would pair together that they usually wouldn't assume would pair together. So this was something that was said like for many years, and it kind of became like, when I grow up or when I get older or when I have enough money or when I have, I always kept giving myself reasons as to when I will start doing this. And then one day I was, with my ex-partner, and he was like, "Listen, why don't you start it? What's stopping you?" And then I told him, I said, I know nothing about this industry. I can't go and start a business without knowing anything, right? And then we figured that, a lot of people run businesses while they do the other things that they do, like their jobs and everything. And there are different ways of starting something. And, you can decide how much you want to, like, would you want it to be a full-time thing or not a full-time thing? So I kind of then discovered that these were options. And I started, saying, okay, maybe I can consider starting a brand. And it took like a year and a half for me to get all the details I wanted, like in terms of like what is the amount of investment, and like I had to learn a lot about fabrics and tailors and fits and all of that. And I took about a year to research on it. And finally, I came to a point where I said, okay, you know what? I think I'm in a point where I can start a brand. I don't know if I can run it, but I can start. Right. So when I decided to start the brand, the first thing that I did was I sat down and wrote down all the issues that I had when I was shopping. So, like, for example, the first thing is no size. That is the biggest problem we all face. And when you do get size, the clothes are ridiculous.
Oh God, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I obviously all my friends were very supportive and they kept being the devil's advocate and they're like, do you know what you're getting into and stuff? And then one day I made a presentation for my friends. And I think it was a 30 slide presentation, and the first 25 slider was what clothes are available in India for plus size women. That's it. I did not have anything else to say. I said, this is what is available in the market, and this is what I'm going against. And everybody, most of my friends are also marketeers or in the industry. So they were like, I think you should just start because we've realized that there is nothing that you're competing with, first of all.
Mm.
And second of all, this is ridiculous. Like everything is the same thing in a different fabric. And I was like, yes, this is why I have been dressing up like this for so many years too. And then I slowly had to figure out a tailor and figure out like how the fits are. And even today, when we make clothes at Plum, each pattern is worn by multiple people. They give us their feedback in terms of the fits, in terms of like issues like when you sit, for a
Yeah.
plus size, the dress will always come up more than everybody else. So
Yeah.
where is it comfortable? Do we need to add a button so somebody can open it or not open it? Like for example, we have a dress which has buttons running all the way from top to bottom,
Mm.
but after the third button, it's stitched.
Yeah.
Yes. That's how
Because
all of my buttons dresses are as well.
yeah, so those are the smaller details that we make sure we follow, because I've realized that these were issues that I had. And if I cannot even solve the issues I faced, I'm not going to make any difference, in the society or in the plus size community. And that is definitely not why I started the brand. Right. So I ensured, like, I think we go a good 2 to 4 weeks from figuring out the pattern, the final pattern, to actually making the first dress. And then I make it in 3 or 4 sizes and I send it to different people and like ask them to wear it, go out. Like even for us, I think we've mastered the art of covering the pocket into the dress. So most of our dresses you wouldn't know have a pocket, but always we have pockets. But we make sure that doesn't compromise with the fit at all.
Yeah, especially if you're fat, you put something in the pocket and then the whole line of the dress is ruined,
Exactly. So all our tight fitting dresses will always have pockets in the front, like a doctor's coat, and never at the side.
Mm.
So these are small things, again, which we discovered, with making clothes over and over again, getting people to wear it. Everyone came back with a different feedback. Somebody was like, oh, this is too long, or this is too short, or, I can't ride a bike with this. I cannot get on stairs. So, we kind of had to improvise and figure out. But that was a great learning curve for me. And then we finally decided that, okay, we're ready. And we opened up. And that was, the first hill that we climbed.
Yeah.
And after that, I came across the second bigger hill that I had to climb. Convincing people to wear my clothes.
Oh.
No, and I'm going to tell you why. So when I started, obviously, okay, I know this is a good and a bad thing to say. But the beauty about the business that I run is I know who my audience is. I can see and I know this person fits my dress or doesn't fit into my dress, right? So I don't have to worry saying where is my target audience. I know who they are. And being a plus size person, it becomes a lot easier for me to talk to them because I can tell them why my dress will solve their problems. I usually like talking to all my customers, understanding what their issues are, what their day-to-day activities are like, and then suggesting, hey, I suggest this dress. You can buy anything from my line, I don't mind. But I recommend this for you because this will suit the issues you have. Like if people tell me, okay, I have kids and I want to run around the house and I have work, I'm like, take this one. It's super comfortable. Or if they tell me that this is what I want to wear it for, or I want to wear it for a date, and I'll give them a dress and I'll tell them, style it like this. So most of our dresses are designed to fit multiple situations with just accessories. That's how we design so that it also makes like a good investment. But yeah, so then I realized that there were people who never in their life wore sleeveless or never in their life showed below their knee or even showed their legs for that matter.
Yeah.
And when I started asking people why, I realized that they didn't know why. When I'd be like, why don't you wear a dress? They just stop for a couple of seconds and they're like, wait, why don't I wear a dress? Nobody knew. And that's when I realized that we were just programmed that from a certain age, we didn't get sleeveless clothes, or we didn't get pants, or we didn't get like dresses, which is why we didn't wear it. And at a point, we just believe that we don't wear it. Like, I don't wear a dress, but I don't know why. And that made me really sad because I was like, oh my God, you are not wearing something, not because you don't want to or because someone else is telling you not to wear it, but just because that option has never been available. And it like I have had so many customers who walked into my shop and be like, oh, I don't wear dresses, and walked out buying like 4, 5 pieces.
Yeah.
Just because nobody's told them that you can wear it if you want to. If you don't want to, it's fine. No one's forcing you. But don't not wear it because you haven't done it before. Like you experiment with so many other things. Try the clothing. Or if you're not comfortable, buy one dress and then see, maybe you can. And a lot of customers do that. They buy a dress and a couple of weeks later, they're like, hey, can I buy more? Because they suddenly start getting compliments. They start getting, oh my God, you look so nice. You look so different. Because obviously our dresses one reason being made by plus size people, we also understand how we want to look.
Yeah.
My worry with most of the mass production clothing that's available is it's made by skinny people, or it's made by people who do not wear or have the problems that plus size people have.
Absolutely. And don't even bother to talk to them. Like, I mean, this is like the
Exactly.
basics of anything. You have to check with your customer if the problem you think they have is the real problem they have.
Exactly. And I'm sure you also will be surprised. When I did my research, 60% of India is plus size women.
Wow.
Wow.
And imagine like 90% of our brands don't have plus size as a category. It's just, I was insane because when I did my research, I'm like, why are we not like this? This should be the market. And then the other thing that really upset me was the pricing of the clothes.
Hmm.
I just don't like. I was like, why am I spending 2,000 rupees for a top when somebody else is paying 600, 700 rupees for the same pattern, same fabric, same everything? And people kept telling me, oh, you use more fabric. And I'm like, but you use less fabric for an excess. You're not giving that person discount either.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's how it works. So if you are going to an excess and you're charging more for that person as well, because that again is the not in your regular size, in your minority size. It's ridiculous how they play with our minds, saying that you're paying for something because it's not available, when actually there's a very, very high demand for it.
That's the thing. It's about controlling the narrative, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So that's how I realized that most of the people never wore it because they never got it. In fact, I think I have like a few stories that I want to talk about, which I sometimes when I think about it, still gets a little bit of tears to my eyes. So there's one customer I remember, and she's one of my favorite customers. And I always am in touch with her, and I ask her my feedback on the clothes and stuff. She walked into my store in one of these pop-up sales. She's I'm maybe about in her 50s, and she came along with her daughter, and she was just looking through the clothes, and I'm like, hey, do you like something? And she said, no, you won't have my size. And I said, no, I know I have your size. Why don't you have a look? And she kept going through it. She's like, oh my God, this is so pretty and this is so nice. And I'm like, why don't you pick up something? She's like, oh, I don't wear dresses. And her daughter walked in the very same second. And then she's like, Mom, why don't you wear dresses? And then she's like, when I got pregnant, which is 21 years ago, by the way, when I got pregnant, I stopped wearing dresses because, again, I put on weight. And then I stopped wearing dresses because I was taking care of the kids and I had to run around and pick them up. And by then, I just got used to not wearing dresses.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay. And then she was a little like, so I'm not comfortable. I said, why don't you try? Like, why don't you pick this one? This is a little longer. And, you can, if in case you're not comfortable, you can always wear it with a pant. Still look okay. So I did all this. And then she was still a little reluctant. And then the daughter just went like, how Papa always says that if you like something, buy it. If you don't, if you don't want to wear it later, you can always figure out what to do with it. But just buy it. She ended up buying like 5 or 6 pieces, again, like some dresses, some tops and everything. And obviously, I took down her number. And I pinged her a couple of days later saying, hey, how's it going and stuff. And she immediately called me. And I was like, hey, and I assumed that it was an exchange or she was not comfortable with something. And she was so happy because for the first time in, like, I don't know how many years, her husband took her on a date.
Wow.
Oh,
And she was like, my husband has never asked to take me on a date. She wore one of the dresses when she went out with her friends. And he saw her and he's like, hey, I'd like to take you on a date. Why don't you wear this? And it was so upsetting that it took that for the husband to take her out on the date. But I was also very happy that it happened, and it was like so life changing that something that I made could make that much of a difference with one person. It could with so many more people, right? It's just that they don't know. We assume that, sometimes we blame even the men saying that, oh, they've lost interest, but we don't actually wonder why. So I think this is something, obviously, we don't talk about it in India almost like it's non existent. But I think people need to start thinking, about why. Like I always believe that if you want to be the smartest person in the room, you have to dress for it as well. You can have a brain of an Einstein, but it wouldn't make sense if you're going to dress up like, like in the most lousy or most ugly looking clothes, to cover yourself completely, look dull. You have to seem presentable if you want to make an impact. And that is in every aspect, right? So even in your clothes. You cannot go to office looking grouchy and expect everyone to be like, oh my God, she's the best employee we have. So I think because of the lack of the clothes, a lot of people are not able to do it. And the second thing is because they do not even know that they can. Right. And then there were a lot of people who were like, oh, my mother-in-law will have an issue. There were so many people who came to the store and they would be like, I don't know if my husband will allow. And then I would ask him, saying, do you mind her wearing dresses? He's like, no, I'll be very happy if she wear dresses. And then they'd be like, no, but my arms will show. And he's like, I don't have a problem with it. Why do you? Because we're so programmed, saying our arms shouldn't be seen, our legs shouldn't be seen, and things like that. So that was the first hurdle that I had to cover. But the second hurdle, which still I'm very upset that we haven't yet gotten to, is the fact that so many people do not want to be in the plus size category.
Right. They're like, I don't want to get this tag.
Yes. So I have seen people, because on my board it says Plumpf plus size right? And people, like, I've noticed guys who will be like, hey, listen, there's a store here, let's go. And the girl will immediately be like, I'm not plus size. And so many times I look at the guy has an offer from saying, she doesn't get clothes and we have a shop, but she doesn't want to go. And I'm just like, it's okay. Give her time. Hopefully someday she will accept and, come. And then, because when you're wearing a size smaller, one, you are uncomfortable. The second thing is everybody else knows you're uncomfortable because it shows.
Yeah.
Everything's so tight, you can't bend, you can't sit comfortably. And that's not how any human should live. If we put anything tight on an animal, they will struggle their way out of it.
Yes.
We're like, no, I am still an L. So I think that is a bigger fight that we all are trying to.
I know.
And hopefully one day it gets better.
No, but I think what you're saying is so, really, if we can have our voices heard in this space, because for me, as a child, I remember wanting to experiment with different clothes, but being shamed by the people closest to me when I'd wear anything which was maybe shorter or tighter or, anything that would show. It was always about needing to hide the fact that I'm fat by wearing clothes that are bigger. And it was illogical to me, because it was like, I am fat. There's no escaping from that, So to wear clothes that are even bigger, what you're basically saying is my body is such a shameful thing that I have to hide it completely. And I remember when I had to step out of school and go into college, it was so scary to me at that time. I chose a girls' college because I was like, I don't want to deal with the boys and the shaming, And second, after my 12th grade, I just said, that's it, I'm going to wear only salwar kameezes. Because my mother was always, taking me to the tailor, and, I would come up with these designs for skirts and for blouses and for dresses, and, the tailor and she would exchange looks and, be, that terribly condescending kindness where, they're trying to tell you that, you don't understand the world. We understand it. This is actually for your own good. And, if only you would lose weight, but you're not agreeing to that. You're not complying to that. So how do you think you're going to get your way in other things, but we're not going to be unkind to you? And yet and yet they ended up being so unkind. It felt traumatic. And so for me, it was like, okay, I'm just going to wear salwar kameezes. And I only wore salwar kameezes from when I was 17 to pretty much when I was, 36? And the only other addition to my wardrobe was a sari, And I still remember once getting, this was a year after I got married, getting trousers made with, a kameez instead of the usual churidar or salwar. And my mother-in-law shamed me, because the first thing she said was, oh, you're looking very smart. But when I got 2-3 of those made, she's like, when we were going to a relative's place, she was like, you can't go looking like this. What are you trying to say? That it's okay for you to be this size? It's not okay. And so I went back to my usual churidar and salwar and high neck. Necks that were really high, and basically just trying to show as little skin as possible.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I think it was just shame. It was that constant feeling of being ashamed,
Mhm.
of. So yeah, I mean, and that's why I always went to tailors, and I never even looked for clothes in stores because
Yeah.
I just couldn't deal with that shame. So I mean, if we could address that in women,
I
well,
know. And I
that'd
really
be
hope
good.
that it transfers. Like I know that we try to do this actively on Fatso Insta and stuff
Mhm.
like that to talk about things like this, like wear whatever you want and all. And again, it's not like people don't think it's weird that I wear short shorts or I wear like these plungy necklines or whatever. But the thing is,
Mhm.
when I was growing up, my mother wore jeans and like men's shirts because of course those were the shirts you had. And
Mhm.
she wore whatever she wanted, and maybe people said stuff to her, but it never came to us, right?
Mhm.
And she
Right.
would be like, I don't think this is a good idea, but I was the person who decided what I wanted to wear. And yes, there were
Right.
times when she would be like yanking my hems up, my hemlines down and my necklines up. But I was just
Mhm.
like, no, I'm comfortable, forget it. And then that's it. Like, it's not like she hasn't told me sometimes that, my God, what are these clothes? But then she's like, yeah, it's your clothes. My poor father also tries sometimes, and I just give him one look and I'm like, my clothes. So,
Yeah,
but
but
I remember, I think when I was in college, like early college, I think 11th, 12th, or maybe first year of college, one of my ex-boyfriend was getting married. And I wanted to obviously wear something sexy, because I'm like, how dare you get married now?
hmm,
So I got this dress stitched. And my mother, like I sent the picture to my mother, and she was like, yeah, it's great. And I got it stitched, and then I wore it, and I went in front of my dad. And it was a V-neck and a sleeveless dress, just about like knee length. And he looks at me and he goes like, where's the cover? And I'm like, what cover? And he's like, no, it's a jacket. I'm like, I'm not wearing a jacket. And my dad's really supportive, but at times like I don't think he gets it. And he's like, okay, all right. And he was very surprised. And then we got there, and then he realized that the dress I was wearing was very similar to what a lot of other women were wearing. Probably he
hmm,
never noticed, probably he never looked at what women were wearing till then. And then he was like, oh, okay, it's all right.
yeah.
Even now, sometimes I get this question where they're like, is this what you're wearing? And if I am confident and I say yes, they will let me be. They will never comment, which is, I feel, is a great step from where they were initially. But I do get those questions, when they're like, "Are you sure that's what you want to wear?" And I'm like, "Yes, this is exactly what I want to wear because I am comfortable." When I'm going to meet my uncles and my aunties, and especially when it's just to visit them, I do not understand why I'm expected to like dress up, and I'll wear like a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, and everything that has to be covered will still be covered.
Yeah.
And then and we're going in a car to their house. I'm like, I really don't find the point of dressing up because no one's going to look at me. Like, I mean,
mm,
not that I wouldn't dress up, but you know what I mean, right? Like, I'm not
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
go and wear a gown or something for this occasion. And but now they've gotten used to it. They're like, okay, fine. This is something that's acceptable to be worn, and they're okay with it. They don't seem to be bothered about the size, which is a great like growth. And I think a lot of people around me also over the years have because they've been very vocal about it. But one thing I have noticed, which I think I would like you kind of bring up because I'm sure a lot of people go through this. So I have this habit that whoever I'm with, like if in case I'm going out with my boyfriend or if I'm going out with a friend or something, when I'm done dressing up, I'll just be like, hey, like is it all like looking good? And they'll be like, yes. So one day my boyfriend asked me, he's like, why do you do that? And I'm like, no, I just want to like you to let me know if it's appropriate for where we're going. Because if you're going to the market or if you're going to a place where it's going to be really crowded, do you think it's okay? And he's like, you can wear whatever you want. I'm like, I know. But I also know there's going to be 10,000 people staring at me. And if you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. Right. But I don't want you to be like, oh my God, why are they staring? And he's like, what? People stare at you? And over the past few months and years, I mean, not years because we've been in a lockdown for so long, but months especially. When we go out, I notice that he looks at people when they stare at me and they're like, he's got this weird puzzled look saying, what are they looking at? And I'm like, I don't know. Even if I wear a sari, they're going to look at me the same way. And trust me, if I wore a burqa, they'd still look at me the same way.
Yeah.
And that's something I've realized over the years that it's not my clothes. I could be fully covered from neck to toe and people will still stare. So I'm not going to change the way I dress because if that person's still going to stare, then it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's I think for a lot of us it's the who is this woman who is taking up space metaphorically and literally, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
That's what it's hard. For a lot of people, I know that it's a bit of like, why is this fat woman wearing thin woman clothes?
Hmm.
But mostly, I think a lot of people will just, and I've had this happen to me as well. There's just something about the way we were just like, I don't want to have time for your patriarchal bullshit. And they're just like, cannot able to compute.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I know.
it's so interesting what you're saying, because as you're speaking to, I mean, last year was quite pivotal for me in my clothes journey. I've had many pivotal years, but last year was quite pivotal for me because all of a sudden I discovered shorts and halter necks and dresses, and I mean, Maya discovered it first, and then I continued to experiment with stuff, and I just discovered clothes that came in my size, things like shorts and halter necks,
Mhm.
and I would just order and I would wear it. And every time I've worn something new, I've always wondered how I will react to myself in the mirror, because that's my test. And
Right.
I've been astonished at how I've actually liked what I see in the mirror.
Mhm.
And that has
Yeah.
then given me the confidence to wear it in front of friends who I know are supportive and kind and
Mhm.
all of that. And once it passes that test, then I go and wear it anywhere, and even on dates, and
Yeah.
click pictures in it and all of that. And it's amazing to me how I am not anymore reacting badly to what I'm seeing in the
Mhm.
mirror. And of course, it's Ameya's presence and Ameya's confidence when she wears clothes. And of course, it's the
Mhm.
podcast. And, also just the space that I've entered in, where I no longer see myself as a fat person in the world. I just see myself as a person.
Right.
And therefore,
Mhm.
I owe it to myself to do the things I love to do, including wearing clothes like this.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just, this, it's so different. Reality is so different when you stop looking at your own body and what you wear from that lens. And then it doesn't matter who looks at you or how they look at you. At least that's my experience.
That is so true. That is so true. I, in fact, had the same experience yesterday. So I wore like this dress, which is like mid thigh length, I would say. It's not short by standard, but usually compared to what I used to wear a couple of years ago, it is short. So I went to work in that. I went in an auto. I got back in an auto. I was almost done. I think it was just 10 p.m. in the night. I was just passing around, like, before I was going to go for a shower. And I passed the mirror. And I just was like, oh, this is how short it is. And I was so happy that it hadn't bothered me the whole day. Also, that nobody around me made me uncomfortable, which I feel is a huge growth for the society we're in. I mean, of
Yeah.
course, there were the few men on the road that stared and stuff, but I don't think that bothers me anymore. But at least the people, that are around me, like no one was like, "Oh, what are you wearing?" or "That's a little short" or anything. I was so happy because I was comfortable, and I believe that irrespective of what you wear, whether it's short, whether it's long, whether it's covering or not, you have to be comfortable. That is the most basic thing. And
Yeah.
I was so comfortable the whole day. I think, I mean, of course, I had to pay attention when I was walking upstairs and downstairs and things, but I think that's irrespective of your size. You need to be cautious of that. You can't go around flashing people, but that was the only thing that I was paying attention to.
I gotta say, what you're saying about people, I mean, there's two things. One, I think that most of the people in my life have just gotten used to it. And that's the truth. That just because of the fact that they've gotten used to seeing a fat woman walking around, not apologizing for being fat, doing her own thing, wearing what she wants, at first
Mhm.
people are always surprised. But then they get
Mhm.
used to it. And that's the thing. The human mind, the human brain has the capacity to get used to pretty much anything.
Right.
Right. So that's the thing. It's just that it's never been used to it. And so just exposure or just by, and that's why it's so important what we do. You as well, the fact that we're out there and we're just
Mhm.
here, guys. Look at us, deal with it, move on, process, right? But
Yeah.
also the other thing I think personally, for me at least, is a lot of the time I thought people were judging me, I was judging myself.
Yeah.
Because I realized today I went out in the morning just to pick up some vades from a local shop, and my friend was with me, so she got out to go to the shop, and I sat in the car, and I just parked the car, and there were these three young boys. They must have been what, 19 or 20 or something, and they're sitting on the side of the road. And as soon as I park, and of course we look at each other, and then suddenly they start laughing loudly. And I was just like, oh, look, the kids are having fun. And then it hit me that 2 years ago I'd have said, shit, they're laughing at me because I'm fat. That would
Mm-hmm.
have been my first reaction to this sound of these boys. Who knows? Maybe they were. But it doesn't matter, right? And sometimes I think that so much of what I thought people were, like, I would see someone look at me and be like, oh my God, they must be thinking, who is this fat girl? What is she wearing? Probably
Mm-hmm.
they were just thinking, oh God, is that person someone from work? Or something like that. I don't know, right? And
Yeah.
again, like I said, maybe they are thinking the mean things. But it just
Mhm.
was so freeing to stop making that assumption every time and just
Mm,
made people become nicer by default.
Yeah,
yeah.
indeed.
Well,
Yeah.
Joe,
But I think
oh, sorry, go ahead.
there's one more thing I wanted to just kind of address, which was, I think one thing that would make me very happy with is when people understand that being fat and being unhealthy and being fat and being fit are not necessarily, and not being fit are not necessarily the same thing. Like, I still go for walks or I still do a lot of physical activity that I know a lot of skinny or thin people cannot do. I'm sure a lot of fit people can do it. But fit has not got a size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wish people got that because people tell me like, oh, you should go for a walk. And I'm like, do you know if I go for a walk? You don't. You don't know what my lifestyle is. You don't know what I eat, what I don't eat. Not that I have a very healthy lifestyle, but you've made an assumption of it even before you know me just because of my size.
And the other thing, I don't owe you or anybody my health.
Exactly.
If I want to have an unhealthy lifestyle, I will. Just because your BMI is 24 and you weigh, I don't know, 50 kilos, you may smoke 30 cigarettes a day and eat only
True.
junk food and drink a lot, and that's not a healthy lifestyle. But you know what? No
True.
one is walking around telling you owe them your health.
Hmm.
But of course, that's next level. I suppose we should start first with the fat is not unhealthy level.
Yeah,
True.
preaching to the choir. But Joe, is there anything that you'd like to ask us?
Um, what has you? I think you guys have been having the podcast for like 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Little more, I think, but yeah, let's say two for now.
How do you all feel? Do you all feel that there has been a growth and like any life-changing stories or anything that you feel okay other people need to hear and they need to know that they're not alone?
Hmm. Well, I think having these conversations, and
Hmm.
even though it was just Ameya and I in the beginning, and now, the circle has expanded, I think
Hmm.
just having these conversations is so liberating. Because I think when we grow up in this world and we're surrounded by people who, have a particular way of looking at things, we then start believing that there's something wrong with us. And we're the only
Hmm.
ones, despite the fact that there are billions of people across the planet, for some reason, we think that we're the only ones with whom something is wrong, you know?
Right.
And having these conversations has been such an, I mean, it has opened up my whole life.
Hmm.
And I think it's amazing when people write into us and of all age groups, sometimes men also write into us and tell us how they're thinking differently or how they've been able
Hmm.
to have these conversations or what a validation this is for them and their thought process.
True.
And, just those changes are to me, I mean, it's just I think it's worth every single fat phobic experience I've ever had in my life. That I am now at this point where I feel this way about myself and can maybe infect someone else with that.
Yes.
Absolutely, man. I completely agree. Like, it's all of this. It's just the having the language to talk about this, giving people the language to talk about this, putting the language
Yes.
out there. just in the last 2.5 years, suddenly you'll hear words for like fat phobia and body neutrality appearing in lifestyle articles. Where were they?
Yeah.
Like, so that itself in India, that's such a huge deal. Like, I just think it's amazing. Of course, also all of what Pallavi said, right? Every person who writes in to say, I feel like shit, my mother says I'll something something, and you say that no, you go fight for yourself, it's all good, we got you. and and then they just knowing that when I was feeling that way, I was so alone, and that this person is not alone, and they know they're not alone. That
Yes,
is so beautiful, as it were.
indeed.
Anyway, okay. As always, it is my job as editor to shout and say that okay, we have run out of time, because I'll have to cut, and I hate cutting. So,
Oh,
Joe, thank you so much for joining us and for doing what you do and the lovely, lovely clothes you make.
It was absolutely my pleasure.
yeah. And thank you for all the energy you bring and all this vulnerability, but all this strength. So that's just brilliant. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Man, she's such a pataka. Like, seriously, gosh, what energy, what energy. No wonder she does what she does so well.
I know, yeah. I mean, for someone who's always had her own clothes made, I never had the ideas that she had. But
Yeah,
it
I
comes
had
from
the
a
ideas
very-
also. I was like, karne ka, I've been wanting to do this for 10 years. Abhi tak nahi kiya.
No, I mean, okay, to be fair, I had the ideas. I even made a plan with Auntie Satna and a business plan and everything, but then shelved it because it just felt quite hard, and I think that's what I admire about her. Just that thing of saying that, no, I want to do this and I'm going to do this, and then doing the market research, and just the compassion with which she speaks. And I love what she said about, she's counseling and advising and helping people change their own perceptions of themselves, and the fact that they then get that response, how empowering is that?
It's amazing. It's just a drive, no? It's a drive mixed with that empathy and compassion that she has. That's so beautiful. And like, she made such great points. It's definitely true that it is really messed up the way we tell ourselves how to not dress or dress, or all of these things. And then upar se there's the next layer of, oh, so and so will not let, but husband says wear, but I still won't wear. And like, I of course dream of the place where you don't care what husband says and you wear what you want to wear.
No, but that says a lot, Ameya, about our society, right? Because here there is, it's not that your partner is opposed to you wearing those clothes. In fact, they would love for you to wear those clothes because they find you sexy. But fat phobia is so entrenched that you can't believe the fact that they find you sexy. And so you want them to cover up.
But I mean, of course, my other thing is that I also think it's problematic that there are certain kinds of ways of dressing that are considered, neat or clear or allowed or appropriate or sexy. So my point is also that if you're sexy no matter what you're wearing. Hai. But like, that's of course, like I said, my utopian vision of the world.
Well, theek hai, but I mean,
level 2. Let's do level 1 first.
Yeah. And I think, anyway, I've lost my thought, but
sorry.
Yeah, I thought this was quite an incredible conversation and quite an incredible woman. And wow,
I'm so lucky that we do this podcast and we get to meet these women.
Yeah.
No?
Really.
Anyway, okay. Well, that's it for today.
Yes. And as you all know, you can find us on Fatso Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Gmail, Substack, and Medium. We have a website, www.fatsopodcast.com. This is spelled FATSOPODCAST. Our music was recorded by Anant, original photographs by Suraj. We need him to come back. And the editing is done by, drumroll, Ameya herself.